The angels looked for God to punish the inhabitants of the earth. But the heavenly universe was amazed at what God chose to do, and what follows is John 3:16. Instead, he sent his Son to bring us the truth. And particularly at the cross, he answered the great questions about God. And one of the things he answered was the one he answered on the cross that was not answered in Gethsemane. In Gethsemane, yes, death is the result of sin, but it is not at the hands of a vengeful God. God did not lay a hand on his Son. But on the cross, people did lay hands on him. People who pictured God as powerful and authoritarian and exacting and severe. And they were Sabbath keepers, tithe payers, health reformers, Bible believers. Why? Because God has said it and they believed it, and that was all there was to it. And they saw nothing wrong in the use of force. When disunity came into Judaism and Christians began, Paul thought, saying and doing things that were dividing Judaism, he went out to restore unity in Judaism. And how did he do it in Acts 26? He arrested these Christians. He punished them. He put them in prison, and he consented to their death. When Stephen said words before the Sanhedrin that seemed to be a threat to unity, how did those Sabbath-keeping saints seek to keep unity? They stoned him to death. They saw nothing wrong with that use of force. It was to them justice. In the name of God, Paul went out to keep unity in the church. That's been very popular through the years. Hundreds of thousands have been tortured to death at the stake to keep unity in the Christian church. Has it worked? You cannot force trust and love. It just can't be done. It's the very antithesis of freedom. And Jesus cleared that all up, and the angels realized that that's the truth. And that's the greatest protection against hostility and disunity and apostasy and defection in the hereafter. There is not one streak of arbitrariness in our God. He is not exacting, vengeful, and severe. But it does mean that since he'd rather give his life than give up freedom. Remember, Paul says if even an angel should disagree with me on this, he's wrong. If even an angel from heaven should come, he's wrong. God says, that's right. I absolutely will never budge on this. I will run my universe in this manner. Therefore, I can only save people who can be entrusted with this kind of freedom. People who altogether love, trust, and admire this kind of God. That's the unity inherent in our faith and our knowledge of the Son of God. So I believe that God's people, wherever they are on this planet, in whatever church or no church, or wherever they are in the universe, God's church, his true people, are those individuals who in the highest sense of freedom have decided that they love, trust, and admire that kind of a God. And then there is a unity among them, no matter what happens. And that unity will last forever, because it wasn't contrived in the first place. It wasn't forced in the first place. Boy, are you willing to let God run his universe this way? Well, the only safe way is if he says, I weep over this, but I cannot let any of you into this kind of society who cannot be trusted. And you say, well, I've been forgiven, haven't I? What's forgiveness got to do with it? Where did we get so preoccupied with forgiveness? We're preoccupied with forgiveness if our understanding is God says you break my rules, justice demands I kill you. But I give you a chance, accept this and I'll forgive you. And I say, please, I accept this and I'm forgiven. Good, now you won't have to kill me. Oh, that may be for little children, but it's not for adults. And you can't turn people like that free in a free universe. That conception of God and that preoccupation with forgiveness does not indicate a readiness at all. Our preoccupation should be with whether or not we really are safe to save. I mean, could we really be trusted? And so David says, I've tried everything all my life. I've killed lots of animals. Remember when he brought the ark back? Lots of sacrifices. He says, I realize now if I sacrifice my own son, it would have nothing to do with what needs to be done. I realize now that what you want is truth in the inner man. Please give me a new heart and a right spirit. Now some say, yeah, but Paul cleared this all up and said, what you need most is forgiveness. No, I don't see that at all. I see Paul agreeing with Jesus in his words to Nicodemus. Nicodemus, unless you be forgiven, no, unless you be born again, you'll not see the kingdom. That's all there's to it. Now, I think that the message of forgiveness is only part of the revelation of the truth about God. The truth about forgiveness is that God is forgiveness personified. God doesn't forgive us in response to an adequate speech of repentance and confession. And that's why Jesus told the prodigal son story. When did the father forgive the prodigal son? Even as he helped him pack his bags to leave. And the greatest discovery the prodigal son made was, halfway through his speech of repentance, that his father had long since forgiven him. The message of forgiveness is simply part of the revelation of the truth about God. Now, how do we respond to that? Do we allow the same Spirit that helped us see this truth, the same Spirit that inspired some of our fellow believers to write this all out, then to bring conviction to us of this truth? And that's a new heart and a right spirit.